The QUADRIOPTICON by Charles Beaumont. Originally published in the August 1954 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Republished in a French magazine simply called Fiction in 1958, the same year in which it was included in a collection of the author stories called Yonder. Inclusion in one more collection came in The Carnival and Other Stories in 2022. Read by Darrell T. Smith II for my channel, Quasar Spectra. The QUADRIOPTICON. It was a dark, musty place, bigger than it had to be, and faintly reminiscent of a family crypt. The asbestos and cork walls were peeling like the bark of a dead tree. The proscenium drapes were holy rags. The ceiling was covered with 1,000,000 plastered cracks. But projection room number 7 had a nice carpet, rich, thick, crimson. Like Sherman Bedeker's face. Of course, he tried to fake it by putting on his informal smile. But this failed because the smile looked as if it had been drawn on with a burnt match by a small boy. To the assembled crowd stationed in regiments in the tan leather studio chairs, the truth was evident. Sherman Bedeker was coming loose at the hinges. Finally, he looked at his watch, giggled once, and trembled forward. "All right," he said. "I guess we'll just have to proceed. I'm sure Rock was unavoidably detained. However, in deference to Mr. Mendel, who is, as we all know, a very busy man, Jimmy, let's go." The lights dimmed down to almost absolute blackness. Then a thin blue spot came on and picked around the room for a few seconds before lighting on the mole-faced producer. Bedeker opened his mouth and began. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to witness will take its place as the most unusual, the most startling, the most precedent-smashing advancement in the history of the motion picture, thanks to a revolutionary hands up, everybody!" A tall, well-built figure in a trench coat stepped suddenly into the spotlight and gave Sherman Bedeker a quick, hard push. The figure held something in his hand that glinted silver. "This is the Vice Squad. You're all under arrest for violating the Man Act, the Woman Act, and what is that couple doing in the third-row balcony?" The lights came on. Rock Jason blinked a few times and replaced the shining silver hip flask in his breast pocket. "Heartbroken that I'm late, citizens. Trust no one was inconvenienced, eh, Mendel?" He grinned and swayed slightly to the left. Marcus Mendel, the studio manager, smiled the quickest, smallest, most obligatory of smiles and swiveled his head back toward the screen. Bedeker's little fists unballed, and he took the tall man's arm. "You're just in time, Rock. Now, if you'll take a seat—" Jason shook his arm loose and glared imperiously. "Rock, please," Bedeker whined. The man whose real name was Leroy Guinness O'Shea winked and brought his hand down on a bare and exceedingly freckled back. "Bless me, if it isn't the tale well calculated to keep you in suspense." Sheila Tyler smiled gaily. "Hello, doll." "Darling!" Jason stumbled across legs to his chair. He sat down next to the corpulent-hipped queen of the columnists, Dolly Dixon, whose sudden Cupid smile made her face look like a crumpled balloon. "Rock, you naughty boy, I swear, you'd be late for your own funeral. Aren't you knocked out?" "In a sense," Jason said, removing the flask and shaking it disappointedly. Then he leaped up. "I refuse to sit next to this woman." Dolly Dixon's face reddened and then exploded in a germ-laden laugh. "Stop! Oh, stop!" Bedeker's eyes were now his only mobile feature. "Why?" he asked dutifully. "Because," Jason said, planting a kiss on the powder-caked cheek, "she gets grabby." "Stop, Rock, you old rogue, you old liar." Jason smiled. He hiccuped. "Well, all right, but no kneesies." Ha ha, that's just so deliriously funny. He jerked his head around. Only one person in the world would dare to be so openly sarcastic to him. Robbie. Dear Robbie, his co-star, the face that launched 1,000 fan magazines. Ah, Jason cooed, America's other sweetheart. How are you, love? Robin Summers wasn't smiling at all. Just dandy, she said. Now, does Mr. Box Office think he might shut up long enough for us to see the picture? She was indecently beautiful today. Golden brown skin lustrous against the white, no-sleeved blouse, wild jet-black hair set off by simple silver earrings, and that thin black ribbon around her throat. Don't fret, darling, Jason said. If you miss it now, you can catch it at your nearest bagnio. Dolly dissolved at that one. Her jelly folds of fat quivered and exuded the powerful aroma of musk. The combination, the perfume and the flask of whiskey, made Jason's head float uncomfortably. Robin Summers threw herself back in her chair. Her round, full lips were pulled down in inexpressible anger. Jason hiccuped again. On with the production, he hollered. I yield the floor. The lights got dim again, and the spot picked up Bedeker's faulty and helpless figure. As I was saying, he intoned, this is an historic occasion. What you are about to watch is the newest innovation, and the greatest since 3D, since sound even. Through a secret process, which we have spent 10 years in developing. Jason fingered his mustache and snorted lowly. He leaned toward Dolly's ear. Poor Sherm is a dear sweet thing, he whispered. Lies so convincingly, don't you agree? I mean, is there anyone who doesn't know that this little fellow, what's his name, Gottfried Gottschalk, invented it by accident and sold to highest bidder? And from now on, all of Galactic's pictures will employ the use of this startling invention, the QUADRIOPTICON. Now, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of technical language at this present instant, but basically what we have here is a machine that literally puts you inside the picture. That's what I said. No glasses are required for this process, no discomfort, no eye strain. The use of the revolutionary prismascopic screen not only gives the illusion of third dimension, but makes this illusion stick. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3D flatties are a thing of the past. No more throwing things at the audience to suggest realism. Folks, it's there all the time. And why, you ask? Because the image is broken up for you by the QUADRIOPTICON, which works exactly like the human eyes. The prismascopic screen is actually many screens, each overlay representing the effect of each frame of depth on the naked eye. Bedeker tapped his glasses for effect. Ever try looking through a screen door? What do you see? Wait now. 2 things, each completely different. If you concentrate on the screen, then you can't see anything else outside. If you adjust your human telescope, see, then the screen disappears, right? Well, this amazing machine permits us to do just that with our image, in exactly the same identical way. Bedeker looked proudly disdainful over the blank pond of faces. But let's save some surprises. Believe me, please take my word for it, folks. It's revolutionary. It'll put Galactic Pictures right back into position as the foremost production unit in the world. Bedeker was warming up. The embarrassment flushed out of him. It was his baby. He began to sound like a bad carny barker, the words most frequently used being revolutionary and tremendous. And so, he said, it was only natural that the world's first picture in 4D... Ears perked up. These were the magic words, 4D. Should star the inimitable team, Rockin' Robbie, those grand troopers, and America's sweethearts. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you the most thrilling story ever written, a tremendous follow-through on the current science fiction trend. Herman Mancini, the writer, sank down in his seat. The Conquest of Jupiter, starring Rock Jason and Robin Summers, filmed in fabulous color with the fabulous four-dimensional QUADRIOPTICON camera. The spot flicked out and the room was dark. Rock Jason smiled. He'd seen the rushes. They were pretty fair. It involved some hocus-pocus with a prismed screen, which he could hear being lowered in the blackness, and some junk sprayed out through a bellows, to bring not only sight and sound, but also smell to motion pictures. It was all right. It would kick up some excitement, and that would net him more dollars, but it would die out, just as everything had, since the big 3D rush. Then Galactic would be back riding on his shoulders, which was all right, too. He could hear Robbie breathing in back of him. The little moron. Of them all, he thought, she detests me the most. Well, such is fame's cross. Great men have ever had their enemies, little jerk. Didn't she know he could kill it for her? Like that. Just refuse to play in a picture with her. Then, where would the independent Miss Summers be? The independent, beautiful, lovely, desirable I'm so excited, Dolly was whispering. I could just flip. Couldn't you just flip, Rock? Like a trained dog, sweet. Well, they're certainly keeping us on edge. Leave it to Sherm. Sherm's a live wire. Sherm's going places. Sherm, Jason said truthfully, stinks. The lights came on again. Billy Zelmo, the comic, got up and did a Bronx cheer. There were rustlings. A little difficulty getting the sync, right? Bedecker called from the booth. He was dying. Jason swam across the legs and tumbled out into the aisle, stopping only to stick out his tongue at Mendel. Fear not, he hooted. Fortunately, among my variegated talents, I am a highly skilled projectionist. Still carrying along the flask, he careened up the aisle. Robbie was furious. He could tell. Why should she get so furious? Her eyes were flashing embarrassedly, those black, black eyes. Here now, boys, let me at it. It's all right, Rock, Bedecker rattled. It's all right. We got it fixed okay now. Why don't you just... Nonsense! Permit a trained man to make it official. He didn't exactly know why he was doing it. He could see the agony outside, on the faces of the others in the film. Guy Randolph, the old regular, the scared-to-death ex-Shakespearean who once went 3 years without a picture job. Burton Mitchell, on his last legs, hungry for the break this seemed to be. The rest, the frightened people who all knew that this roll of celluloid could make or break them, depending upon its outcome. And now Rock Jason was doing his damnedest to louse it up for them. Rock, this is important. We've got to snag Mendel. Please sit down. The lights had been killed. The QUADRIOPTICON, a weird box that didn't even look like a projector, had begun to hum and warm. Don't tell me what to do, you sycophant. I said I'd fix it, and that's what, by God, I intend to do. Jason pushed Bedecker's limpid form away and advanced on the machine. There was a small door on the back. He opened this. Don't touch, someone said, trying to grab his hands. You shouldn't touch. It was little Mr. Gottschalk. Avant! He yelled at the bald-headed old man and gave him a push, too. Mr. Gottschalk stumbled out of his way. Behind the tiny door was a pair of electrodes. The ball-pointed shafts of metal crackled and danced white-hot light. Beyond the field was an indented knob. Jason started to reach. 9! Wait! I will turn it off! His right hand, which held the metal flask, was draped across the bare metal control cabinet. With his left hand, Jason reached far in and felt the sparks tickle and fry his flesh. The whiskey container touched metal at the exact moment he grabbed the flying knob. Rock Jason felt a giant hand pick him up and toss him away, far away, where it was all dark and quiet. "Commander Carlyle, sir, I—" The man stuttered helplessly. "Sir, how do you keep it up? Sizzling jets? You haven't slept for 5 nights." One by one, Rock Jason opened his eyes. He shook his head vigorously and said, "Oh." He tried to, but somehow could not quite put things together. He was overcome with the greatest drowsiness he had known since that memorable dew in Malibu. Sleep crudted his eyes and brain. "You're perfectly right, Ronnie. Can't account for it. So tired." "Beg pardon, sir." Jason looked at the young man. "Let's see. Of course, a binge. Probably with Doris Dulane, the bitch. She'd tanked him up or let him get tanked up, and now they were pulling one of their idiotic gags, like Eddie Fritzel's famous upside-down room. Ronnie, be a dear child and take the ridiculous mason jar off your head and steer me to a bed. Quickly." Ronald Curtis, a fairly typical Sunset Boulevardier and an incurable whiner, stood at strict attention. Pretty cocky, all considered. If it hadn't been for Jason's big heart, the kid would still be perched on a stool at Schwab's dreaming of the movies. Jason pinched the flesh of his arm. Sleep. Great Oliver, what had he been drinking? "Darling," he said with immense control, "I'm in no mood for jokes. Tomorrow, perhaps. A bed is what I'm in the mood for now. A soft bed. Do you understand?" The young man looked hopelessly bewildered. "But, Commander Carlyle, sir, that is—" "Very well. Tend to the ignoramus later. Never mind. I'm sure I'll be convulsed with the hilarity of the situation by next morning. I'm not now amused, so go away and leave me alone." Jason's head nodded toward the desk. There was a ringing, reverberating clang. He reached up and felt the glass helmet. "And what?" he moaned. "This is, I'd like to know. God damn it, help me off with it, this minute." He began to search for clamps, sensing a fuzzy blackness clouding his mind. "Sir, be careful, the rips haven't been repaired yet." "Ronnie, I love you like a son. Genuinely, I do. But if you don't get this thing off me and stop this nonsense immediately, I'm afraid I'll have to discuss your future with Mendel. I'm a sick man. What the devil are you talking about? Rips?" "The Mercutians, sir. Their armada surprised us. We were hit." "Stop that." "We were hit, of course. That horrible science fiction thing. These were lines from the movie. They'd rigged up the room to look like the first scene set. Internal shot. Rocket ship, commander's cabin. Medium shot. And this was the bit where Jason, as Commander Derek Carlyle, was supposed to be working day and night because only he knew how to repair the damage to the complex machinery. "Benson and Carstairs are dead, sir. Their air ran out." Charming. Now, what was the next line? Oh, yes. "Very well, Lieutenant. Fix me some black coffee. I'm going out there and finish the job." "Yes, sir." "Oh, shut up." "Sir?" "I said. Darling, whose captivating idea was this? Doris's?" The young man kept looking confused, standing there quietly looking confused. Well, damn good acting, give him that. Maybe too good. Strange, Jason thought, that he couldn't remember anything about last night. He knew he was supposed to have appeared for Bedeker's party with the QUADRIOPTICON, but, oh yes, he'd stopped by the Inferno first for a very short one. Then... "We got the last one, sir." "Last what?" "Mercutian. Johnson beamed his forward jets. That wipes them all out. Sir, if we get the damage repaired in time, we're Venus-bound." "Ronnie, Please, my head. I'll get the coffee, sir. The young man saluted smartly, did an about-face, and marched out of the room. Must be Doris. Who else would have the money to build such a duplication of the set? The cabin was perfect, to the last detail. They'd even put him in that monstrous spacesuit dear Carpenter had dreamed up, the swine. How unchic can you get? Next thing, they'd be putting him in Indian blankets. Spacesuits. Whither thou, Thespis? Oh, one's head. Well, figure it out later. Get some sleep is the thing now. He tore viciously at the clamps that secured the helmet. They slipped loose. He lifted off the glass bubble. He found he could not breathe. The blackness fuzzed up entirely, and he fainted promptly. Very dark. Very quiet. Commander Carlyle, sir, The man stuttered helplessly. Sir, how do you keep it up? Sizzling jets, you haven't slept for 5 nights. Jason pulled himself into consciousness. Now, what was it? The whole idiotic bit again? He tapped upward with tentative fingers. The mason jar, right back on his head. And he'd taken the thing off, hadn't he? You shall pay for this, Ronnie Curtis, in full. Benson and Carstairs are... Well, maybe it's part of the gag. Let him pass out, and then wake him up and start it again, ad nauseum. I know, dead, wonderful, fine. At least Benson and Carstairs have got some peace and quiet now. Stop looking so foolish. And do, for heaven's sake, stop saying sizzling jets. What a line. Yes, sir. About the damage, Commander. Fix it yourself. What am I talking about? Say, weren't you just in here a minute ago? No, sir. And stop saying sir. Jason rapped at the helmet perched on his shoulders. I am dying, he said. Here, help me up. Get me a bromo. I'm going to have a word with Doris. The young man assisted Jason to his feet. They walked out of the cabin. For Pete... Jason stopped and stared. Just how far does a gag go? It was the rocket ship, perfectly done, except the bars under his hands didn't feel like silver-painted plaster. They felt very real. The young man thrust some odd-looking things into his hands. Good luck, sir. Suddenly he was being helped up a ladder. Below, a number of extras he'd never seen stared in unbelieving admiration. There goes a man, someone whispered. You couldn't drag me out there, commented another. Now wait a minute, Jason cried. Above, the alloy roof was gashed and instruments hung loose. The night looked very black. A powerful aroma suddenly seemed to permeate the helmet, cutting up through his nostrils. The smell of dryness and deserts, cooked up by Pa Franklin to simulate the odors of far space. If there were odors in far space. He began to feel peculiar. What was all this, after all? Was he actually on the set again for a remake? He looked for the crew, James, the director, Bolana, the cameraman. But there was only the ship and these crazy people and the stars. Then a horrible thought occurred to him. So this is the DTs. Dr. Morris had warned him plenty of times. Delirium tremens. Oh, no. No, but what else? Jason found himself on the outer hull of the rocket, exactly as in the first scene of The Conquest of Jupiter. In fact, everything followed the scene. Now he was supposed to start fixing the airlock, or some sort of gimmick, and a Mercurian. Beg pardon, Mercutian. And where did these science fiction writers think the planet Mercutio was located? A Mercutian devil man was supposed to creep up on him, and, Look out, sir! Jason glanced up dazedly from the twisted machinery and faced a gigantic orange creature with scales and eyes of an alarming protuberance. Pinky, for God's sake, don't do that! The creature came closer, slowly, leering with the pride of the special effects department. 3 mouths where the eyes should have been, but weren't. It said something that sounded like, Umbawa, fig oof. What was that, Pinky? I can't hear a word with this imbecile thing on. Repeat. Umbawa, fig oof. Stop growling and take off that moldy leftover from John Carter on Mars and tell me when the hell this bit is going to end. The creature was almost upon him, liquid fire oozing from the giant pores between scales. Its body odor suggested that of the inside man at the putrefaction works. Shoot, sir! Oh, sir! He's a cool one, Commander Carlyle. Knows what he's about. Pinky, that is, I wish... Pinky? Umbawa, fig oof, magufu. Good God! Jason tried to turn and run, but his magnetic shoes held him fast to the hull. He whipped around and permitted his jaw to drop as the creature's arms began to encircle him. Please! I've told you a dozen times I'm not that way, especially here in front of... Pinky? I'll have you fired. I will. Automatically, Jason wrenched loose one hand from the steaming tentacles and squeezed the trigger of the gun he'd forgotten about. A beam of light sprang out into the monster's face. Umbawa, fig... The monster fell and proceeded to float away in the darkness of space, its stench floating after it, if too slowly for comfort. Magnificent! Carlyle knew his gun wouldn't have been any use except at close range. What guts! Jason's fingers seemed to move of their own accord about the broken machinery. He watched with fascination. Then his legs took over and brought him back down the ladder. She'll be all right now, men, his voice said. Hurrah! Hurrah! Now, said Jason's voice. Denton, you and Marcelli, do the patchwork. I'm going to catch a few winks. Wake me at 0700 promptly. His legs propelled him along the catwalk and took him back into the cabin. He lay down on the bunk. DTs, he said aloud. They're murderous. Sleep came to the courageous commander of the spaceship Starfire. Sleep well earned by a man who had toiled 5 days and 5 nights to bring his craft safely through the greatest space battle of all time. Jason started to remember something just before unconsciousness set in. Murderous, he mumbled and closed his eyes. Aldridge, you traitorous cur, court-martialing is too good for you. You mean exactly. Jason scratched his head. How long, he wondered, does this kind of thing go on? After all, DTs are supposed to wear off, aren't they? Or are they... What do you propose to do about it, Earthling? The uniformed navigator spat. It was the ex-Shakespearean Guy Randolph, a small part, but plenty dramatic. Well, play along. Scene 2, isn't it? You've discovered that the navigator, Aldridge, is really a Venusian in disguise, and is the one who alerted the Mercutians and caused... Oh, Mancini, from the Pulitzer Prize to this, caused the Mercutians to attack and ambush. Now he, Aldridge, had misrouted the Starfire, and they were headed for Jupiter, the death planet. Great little plot. Academy Award. What do you propose to do about it, Earthling? Fight scene. Big fight. Well, delirium tremens only means that you're dreaming. Jack it off. sleeves up, sneer. Get ready, Aldridge, unless you're too yellow. You would overrun our world and bring the pestilence of war that ruined your own, Randolph declaimed in a bad imitation of Maurice Evans. Never! Take, Jason said, hauling off, that Venusian filth. He carefully missed Randolph's jaw. The man grinned savagely and lunged, his hands snaking up around Jason's neck. Jason pulled loose the fingers and caught his breath. What's the big idea, darling? He started to walk away, massaging the bruised flesh. Very real, he thought, for a dream. The navigator flung himself upon Jason's back, and they fell to the floor. Randolph pounded away, changing form the while. Presently, he was a sticky green, amoeba-like blob. Never again, Jason resolved, wishing he had one drink nonetheless. He tore himself free and ran out the door and slammed the door shut. He heard all over. Enough, he panted, is enough. He went to the airlock and began to pull it open. Blackness inside his head, very dark, very quiet. Aldridge, you traitorous cur! Court-mart! Like the rushes of a film turned back for editing, right back to the same damn line, and Randolph wheeling around in his chair. You mean... Jason remembered how the first scene had gone back. What had done it? Of course, changing the script. Everything went fine until he did something that Commander Derek Carlisle wouldn't do. Something that was impossible to the structure of the story. Then, zip, all over again. The dim realization came to him that if he was ever to get out of this, he would have to follow the script to the end. But how the hell could that be? No, not with what was coming up. Exactly! Scene 3. Having beaten Aldridge to death, Commander Carlisle discovers Stowaway on board. Beautiful chick, sweet-smelling, too. Robin Summers. Usual mad-then-glad bit. Robbie is in love with him. Kiss. Headed for peril. Jupiter unknown planet. Maybe hostile. Whew. What do you propose to do about it, Earthling? Bless little Herman. What was this lousy picture about, anyway? Earth is being fried by strange ray from space. Authorities send ship to Venus to investigate. Ship has spy. Fight with Mercutians. Land on Jupiter. Turns out Jupiter the real menace. Jovians have death ray. Knock it out. Return home. Earth saved. Hacha. You would overrun... Well, anyway, they cut out those opening scenes. Space battles cost money, be praised. That would have been jolly. Scene 4. The landing on Jupiter. Jovians appear, and my oh my, what a fight. 2 days to film it. Murder. Scene 5. They take Robbie hostage. Scene 6. Commander Carlisle slips inside their temple and is captured. Scene 7. The Rakana. Take that, Venusian filth! Jason fought hard. After all, Randolph wasn't getting along. 60 if he was a day. He stomped the greenish blob to a jelly, for the matinee kiddies, and kicked it triumphantly into a corner. His nostrils filled with the odor of charred flesh. Now, why charred flesh? Oh well, it made him gag. Smells. All the time, these smells. Commander, we're off course. Ronnie, you sweet thing, how observant. I mean, how very observant. That is, very well, Lieutenant. I know all about it. Aldridge was a spy. We're going to have to try for a forced landing on Jupiter. Jupiter? Screaming asteroids, sir. That planet looks dangerous." "Danger is our business, Lieutenant." "Yes, sir. Jupiter it is." That's it. Just reroute and land on Jupiter. Mancini, you brain, even the schoolboys know better than that. Forget it. The young man stuck his head in the doorway. "Stowaway on board, sir." "All right, I'll have a look." Wearily, Jason rubbed his head and went with the lieutenant. "Robbie, dear," he said, when they brought the prisoner forward, "how nice to see someone human. I'm having a dream, you know." Jason giggled. "You're looking splendid, smelling splendid, too." "I told you I'd be with you always, Derek," Robbie said, eyes glistening, "and I meant it." "Why did you do this foolish thing?" "Because I love you." Jason grinned. Little liar. Oh, what a lie. "Say that again, darling." "I love you, Derek." "I should be angry, furious, but I'm not. We're in trouble. I suppose you know that." "I know." "And I suppose they told you we may not get out of this alive." "It doesn't matter. Not as long as I'm with you." Jason felt an impulse. Would Commander Derek Carlyle, or would Commander Derek Carlyle not sweep the girl into his arms? It wasn't in the script, but it was beginning to appear. It was all right if you didn't change it altogether. Revisions didn't hurt. Scripts are always being revised. He swept her in his arms and kissed her and waited for the old fuzzy blackness to come. It didn't. "Sweetheart!" She was looking splendid. Carpenter did much better by her costume, such as it was. Some absolutely essential impedimenta. 3 or 4 sequined discs of varying shapes and all about the size of fig leaves. The diaphanous gown served only to heighten the effect of the deep cherry nut tanned skin and the slender curves. And the scent! How could even Galactic's labs come up with a perfume that was so purely the odor of clean, fresh woman? The look in her eyes, her black, dancing eyes, was of an alarming sincerity. He was going to suggest that they go elsewhere to chat, say to his cabin, where he could show her his navigational charts, but Mancini had taken care of that. Commander Carlyle. Good egg. A nonagenarian in a harem. Duty first. But as he looked at her, Jason felt strangely sad. It was the way she had pronounced the word love. Not brittle and lifeless, but, well, as if she really meant it. This part of the dream was not so bad, he decided. Maybe even worth the whole thing. Nonsense, Jason. Nonsense, your Aunt Hermione. Why kid yourself? You love the girl, don't you? Admit it in a dream, at least. After you wake up, you can hide in that gin-soaked hell if you want to, and keep her from ever knowing. Jupiter ahead, sir. Tell Michaels to prepare the brakes. Jason put a protective arm around Robbie. Her shoulder trembled. He could not bear to look into her eyes. We'll make it, men, if we keep our heads. I don't care. You stay here if you want to, Jeff. I'm going in. But it's sheer suicide. You don't stand a chance in a million of getting out with your skin. It's a chance I'll have to take. Derek, listen to me. There's 1,000 of those ugly devils and everyone's spoiling for a fight. They'd pick you up and... Well, you know what happened to Fontaine. Yes, I know. Well then, makes sense, Derek. We can still clear out while there's time. Sorry, Jeff. No dice. I've made up my mind. You crazy fool. I wonder if that girl knows how much you love her. It isn't just for Cynthia, Jeff. Don't you understand? It's our only chance to get at that death ray. Then I'm going to go with you. No. One might make it, not two. You go back to the ship, Jeff. That's an order. Yes, sir. Shake? Good luck, Derek. Good luck. We'll be waiting. Jason watched the figure of Jeff Manning, the engineer, walk off toward the Starfire. Burton Mitchell, of course, looking as if he'd never spent a day at the phone praying for a call from Central Casting. Maybe he wasn't such a bad sort. They were all behaving well. Stop it, you ass. This is a fit of some kind you're having. Burton Mitchell is a pitiful and extremely annoying has-been, and if he hadn't pestered you to death... Still, what's the story? Are you letting these perils of Pauline heroics warp your better judgment? Twice in the picture, Manning, had saved his life. Minor episodes, but he was touched. Couldn't help it. Everybody seemed so damned sincere about their corn. This flea-bitten space opera, running the gamut of emotions, the most basic emotions, simplified down to absurdity. But maybe it was the first time Rock Jason had ever been exposed, or permitted himself to be exposed, to real emotions of any kind. In Hollywood, he guessed, you've got to rely on dreams for lasting values. Dreams were the only things with value. Look at him now. The climax of the picture, the big scene, hero stuff, and yet he was feeling less like Rock Jason every moment and more like Commander Derek Carlisle, Herman Mancini's brainchild. Or was he merely feeling like Leroy Guinness O'Shea in days long ago, when the stage was a magic world and such things as love and honesty existed? Jason felt the anger surge, and he didn't try to check it. Trick suits or not, pimple-faced extras or no pimple-faced extras, he hated the Jovians for what they had done. They had Robbie, the bastards. Well, they wouldn't have her long, by the holies. He vaulted with great bounding leaps over the rough terrain and crouched at the marble wall of the temple. A guard slithered toward him, hissing. He let him have it. The guard fell. He wrapped the scarlet cloak about his shoulders and faked his entrance into the hall. The animal smell almost asphyxiated Jason. Direct from the reptile house, he remembered, together, for effect, with Essence du Stable. The Emperor of Jupiter sat upon his throne, clucking gleefully. "I thought our little ruse would work, Commander. Don't attempt to shoot me. I am covered by a force field, and 50 Kranich pistols are aimed at your heart." It was Toby Bowles, old Toby who'd made a fortune playing villains because of his impossible face. Even with the weird makeup, there could be no mistaking the kindly character actor. Or could there? "You scum!" Commander Carlisle raged. "Scum, eh? We'll see how the heroic commander's song changes after he sees this." The Emperor motioned with his hand, and 2 slaves pulled aside a thick purple curtain. "Cynthia! Robbie! Derek!" "A most touching reunion," the Emperor laughed gutturally. Robbie was spread-eagled and chained to the wall. The diaphanous gown was gone. She was as naked as the production code would allow. Bright, thin red stripes crisscrossed her shoulders and other inoffensive regions. Commander Carlisle spluttered out an oath and raced forward. The force field knocked him to his feet. "Cynthia, what have they done to you?" "Nothing," the Emperor laughed. Then he sobered. "Yet." "I'll kill you, you Jovian filth," Commander Carlisle hurled. "Then I'll have you fired. Do you hear me? Blackballed by every studio from here to—" "Strange talk, Earthling. Bold talk. But we have more to show you. Come. Two burly slaves, both looking alike, both resembling great lizards, pinioned Jason's arms and pushed him along roughly. They went through many halls and finally entered an immense rotunda. An oversized machine, something like a searchlight, hummed and droned madly in the center of the room. "The Death Ray!" Commander Carlyle exclaimed. The next lines of dialogue were lost in his fury. "I see you recognize our little weapon. I thought perhaps you might be interested. Its effects are slow, but they are lasting. The warmth your Earth feels now will be increased in a very short time to a heat so unbearable no life can exist." "Then you move in, right?" "As you say, right. We're becoming rather overpopulous here." "You cold-hearted—" "Toby, listen to me. Turn that thing off. And then turn Robbie loose. Immediately. Is that clear?" "Prepare the prisoner for the Rakana." "Oh, let's not go through that miserable thing." Jason felt unwell. He had turned green just watching the stuntman. The late stuntman it was now. "We will test your courage, brave soldier." Right straight out of Gunga Din. "Let's talk it over, shall we?" The blackness began to fuzz up. "Stop it. You're too close to the end now. Keep this up and you'll land smack back at the beginning of Reel 9. Do your worst to me, but release the girl." "Ah," the Emperor said. "In accordance with the rules, I make you a promise. It is a fair one. In the event that you are victorious in the arena, both you and the girl will be free to leave unharmed." There were soft, hissing, laughing sounds. Commander Carlyle grinned wildly. "You've made yourself a deal, Snakeface." "Take him away." Jason left happily. The Snakeface had been his own. Then he thought of what was to come, and he stopped being happy. The darkness of the cell was oppressive. It pushed in. The smell department had gone crazy here. A whiff from a local dairy, frou-frou of abattoir, the gentle aromas of cattle barns, stables, and cod liver oil. Every repulsive smell in the world. Jason alternately trembled and squared his jaw. It took thought. On the one hand, this was a fit of the DTs, and so, one way or another, he would wake up by and by, and everything would be Jim-dandy. Plus the fact that, according to the script, Carlyle is victorious. But there was the other hand, which was that the great stuntman, Ralph Laurie, who had in his career flown through fiery hoops, leaped into ravines, and braved death in every conceivable manner, had been killed in this scene. The gorilla had killed Laurie. Stupid to use a gorilla anyway. Who ever heard of gorillas on Jupiter? Who ever heard of anything on Jupiter? Jason thought about the big ape Bobo, painted a sickening bedroom pink, and he began to tremble more often than he squared his jaw. He had about decided to give the whole thing up when the wooden gate was pulled open and light cascaded in. Two Jovian lizard men also cascaded in. They dragged Jason into the center of the vast circular arena. The crowd cheered madly. The Jovians slithered away. Then Jason remembered. Whirling, he saw Robbie, tied to a stake in the exact center of the sandy circle. She was breathtakingly beautiful now. He went over to her. She looked very frightened. The ropes had been carefully placed. Lila, from props, had spent almost an hour getting the rough, thick loops just right. One above the breasts, one below them, one around the tummy, one below. Robbie, darling.
Derek, whatever happens, I love you. I love you.
Jason put a hand over her lips.
You mustn't say it, he whispered. Not after the way I've treated you. But, Robbie, if we get out of this, I'll make it up. I swear I'll... Derek, look out!
The crowd's scream whipped him around. Jason swallowed. It was Bobo, the gorilla, with that look in his eye. Nice, Bobo. You remember me, Rocky. Jungle goddess, remember? The ape walked on all fours twice around Jason. The crowd hushed. Bobo stopped and scratched. Jason sighed. His heart was thumping. He noticed the flimsy spear the guard had put in his hand just before abandoning him to this dirty creature. Bobo, get back. Get back now. Don't do anything foolish. Someone threw a heavy rock. It hit the apes behind. Arrgh! The ape roared disapproval and began to lope straight for Jason. They sprinted around the arena a few times, the ape hot on his opponent's heels. Jason started to climb the wall. The black fuzziness. He dropped down. The giant creature was thundering toward him. He closed his eyes. Nothing happened. He opened his eyes. Bobo was beating his villainous old chest and hooting at Robbie. Jason ran over and delivered a well-aimed kick to the gorilla's hindquarters, which were already tender from the rock. Bobo turned, scratched and leaped, saying, "Arrgh! Arrgh!" They fell thuddingly on the sand. The gorilla's arms were crushing his chest. "For heaven's sake," Jason managed to gurgle, "you're squashing me, you idiot!" They rolled over and over. The crowd roared. The gorilla roared. Jason roared. Then Bobo screamed an unearthly, unjovian scream in the suddenly quiet arena. Jason watched the ape clutching and flailing at the spear shaft, which was buried in soft chest flesh. He heard the thunder of over a ton of life hitting the sand. Then, when Bobo twitched no longer, he walked over, bowed in the direction of the Emperor's box, and pulled out the spear. As he did so, he wondered briefly what had happened. The throng went crazy. Guards came galloping into the circle, hissing threats, and the Emperor's voice could be heard screeching, "Kill the Earthling! Kill him!" "So," Commander Carlyle cried, "this is how the ruler of all Jupiter rewards bravery and keeps his promises. Kill him!" A Kranich gun crackled, and Commander Carlyle grabbed at his shoulder. He dropped on one knee, tried to shake the pain from his mind. Then he saw why the crowd had gone so crazy. The crew of the Starfire, stationed at crucial posts, were letting loose the fury of Zam guns. The Jovians were falling like ants under a spyglass. The stink and sizzle of death on Jupiter filled the heavy air. Of course! At this point in the scene, they'd come to rescue him. Commander Carlyle rose to his feet and raced along to the royal box. He reached up and pulled the fatty Emperor down into the sand. Toby fumbled with a pistol. "Oh, no, you don't!" Commander Carlyle plunged the already bloodied spear into Toby's quivering throat. Then he ran back to the stake and cut loose Robbie's bonds. She collapsed into his arms. He winced at the pain in his shoulder and lifted her to the waiting, loyal Jeff. "Thanks, boy. Okay, Skipper." He grabbed a Kranich and blasted his way through the disorganized Jovians to the rotunda. The lizard guard whirled, hissed disdainfully, and brought his blaster into play. Commander Carlyle dodged the lethal ray and leaped upon the enraged Jovian. This part, he recalled vaguely, was played by a particularly scrawny extra, so he directed his blows toward the Adam's apple, together with a few good ones to the belly. The Jovian dropped, hissing and moaning. Commander Derek Carlyle took careful aim with his Kranich pistol. Then he fired. The ray hit the machine dead center. He fired again and again. Soon the death ray apparatus was a melted pile of steaming junk. He smiled inscrutably and turned in time to blast the guards out of the doorway. Then he clutched a conveniently placed velvet cord and swung the length of the hall over the heads of the lizard horde, high over them, in a long, graceful arc. Then, in the sunlight, he ran, blasting his way to freedom. There were Jovians waiting at the ship. Loyal, good and true Jeff lay dying on the volcanic soil, and a slimy snake on legs was slithering away with Robbie in his stunted arms. "Wait a second, friend." The Jovian turned. The blast caught him directly in the face. He screamed. Commander Carlyle helped Cynthia into the ship. Then he climbed back down. "Jeff," he said. "Come on, let's... Jeff!" "Sorry, Derek. This is one hand I'll have to sit out on. You'll have to go on without me. This is curtains." "Jeff!" More Jovians came barreling for the ship. Kranich rays cut through the air. One caught Jason's shoulder. Wait a minute. Didn't the script girl catch that? For Pete's sake, that shoulder was supposed to be already hit. Never mind that now. Just get in the ship. Hurry. The lizard men were battering at the door, slicing the alloy with their pistols. "Let her rip!" The jets thundered to life. Commander Carlyle chuckled. "That ought to warm 'em up." He could smile now. The starfire rose slowly like a gigantic phoenix. Then it flashed off, a silver wink in the black velvet sky. Commander Carlyle stood at the starboard port. His eyes were sad. His arm was around the girl. She snuggled closer. "Goodbye," he said. "Jeff, Harry, Don, all of you down there who didn't make it. You died, but your lives were not given in vain. Earth will never forget your sacrifice." "And Earth will never forget," said the young lieutenant, "a man named Carlyle. God bless you, sir. We all love you." "Yes," Cynthia said, snuggling still closer as the stars whisked by. "We all love you, Commander Derek Carlyle." "Robbie," Jason said, holding her, pressing her nearer. "Robbie, Robbie, darling." This time the blackness came, and Jason didn't fight it. He only tried to hold on to that golden tan arm a little longer. Whistling. Applause. Cheers. Jason blinked, half expecting to find himself back in the Rakana field. He tensed his body. He opened his eyes, expecting to see Bobo the gorilla. Instead, he saw Sherman Bedecker. He closed his eyes again. It was almost as bad. "Rock, you all right? Speak to us. Say something." "Bring on the dancing girls," Jason said. The dream was over. He remembered it all now, or most of it, anyway. "That's our Rock. Say, you had us worried, boy." "What did I do? Faint?" "I wouldn't know. You just sort of stood here watching the picture." He looked puzzled. "Is that so unusual?" "Well, what I mean is, you pulled your hand out before Jaime could switch off the quad, and just, well, you didn't say boo, just watched the picture. Is it over now?" "Is it over? Listen to the man. It's a goddamn sensation. It was the smells that did it. Oh, what a brainstorm those smells were." Bedecker was smiling broadly. "Excuse me now, gotta go meet our public." He went outside, burbling happily. The voices were loud.
How is your hand, Mr. Jason? Little Mr. Gottschalk looked anxious.
Beautiful. An artist, Jason said, thinking of other things.
I was afraid. Did you hurt it? Bad type business. Nobody, not even me, knows all about this machine, but so? Maybe all great inventions get born like me, isn't it?
The little man looked quite sad.
I tell you, Segret, what I am working on is not for movie camera. No, at first I think I got Segret to force dimension is beautiful, but it wouldn't work. 1,000 times I tried. Nothing wouldn't work.
He sighed.
So I turn it into movie camera, all right?
Jason nodded slowly, wondering about several things all at once. The door opened. Dolly Dixon stood puffing.
Darling, she ululated. But it was the most. I mean, the end. I mean, what'll you just do with all your money?
Excuse me. Jason brushed past the confused sphere of columnists and looked around the room and then walked quickly out the doorway, tearing loose from the adoring crowd. She was walking fast.
Robbie, wait!
Robin Summers turned around.
For what? She said. It's your show, isn't it?
Her black eyes didn't seem so angry. Why didn't they seem so angry? Jason thought for a moment they looked almost as they did on Jupiter. Robbie, I want to say some things to you. Will you listen?
If I have to.
Her skin was even more shining gold in the lights. Robbie, I want you to forgive me. I don't know why I'm saying this any more than you do, but I'm on the level. If it's a mood, it might pass. Then I'd be the same egotistical, selfish, jealous, lonely person I've been for so many years. And you'd never know. I don't want to be that person again. Jason pulled her into a doorway. I've treated you like hell, because I've been afraid not to. Afraid of being laughed at, of finding a mirror you can't look away from. But I'm not afraid like that now, so forgive me, Robbie. I know it's a lot to ask, but try. Try for me.
Why?
The girl said.
Because I'm in love with you.
She studied Jason's face carefully. Then she looked into his eyes.
Let me smell your breath, she said.
Jason huffed. I'm not drunk. Honest.
But what's happened?
She touched his shoulders.
I don't.
Neither do I. It's stupid. Believe me, honest to God, I don't know. Only that it's taken Rock Jason a long time to find Leroy O'Shea.
Who?
Jason smiled at how well the publicity department had kept his secret. Guy I used to know. He's now captain of a spaceship. I ran into him on Jupiter.
Rock Jason?
The girl said.
You're nuts.
Jason laughed. Could be. Could very well be. How about a psychoanalysis over some straight ginger ale? He rubbed a finger over the fresh scar on his left wrist. The girl's summer dress billowed in the warm breeze. Please, Jason said. You've been listening to pre-1990s speculative fiction readings with a highlight on science fiction by Darrell T. Smith II. Please consider clicking the donation link in the description box. Thank you so much for your time and your imagination.